Hello everyone, Melissa Crook here, design team member for Bello's Designs. Today I'm going to be showing you how I've made this altered cigar box. All kinds of different multimedia and everything that I've used except for the box is supplies I've used for card making. So you can use a lot of the supplies that you already have. The box, and I'll say the silk flowers, they're also not something I use for my cards, but other crafts. Anyways, so I don't have a complete supply list that I'm going to share in the opening of this video just because it is very extensive. However, in each stage of the video, I will show the supplies used for that stage, and as well as in the description box below, I have a complete list of every supply that you will need. Basically, you're going to need a box, some tissue paper, some Mod Podge, your stamps. I used spray inks, I used some gilding polish, and many different inks, brushes, lots of stuff. The die cuts that I used are just random, unbranded things that I have in my stash, so those I'm not going to list individually. It's just going to say random leaf dies, and you can use whatever you have. If you don't have dies, you can stamp your stamps and fussy cut them and make your own little leaf designs or whatever. If you don't even want to do that, you don't have to. You can just use the tissue paper. Still gives it great texture. And this is only the third mixed media box I've ever done, so I'm just showing you how I'm doing it with the supplies that I already own. I'm not going to invest heavily in more products. I just think this is really fun. So anyways, follow along with me if you want to check out how I made this. Be working on this little cigar box, and it's just a wooden cigar box. The only thing that I have done is coat it with a coat of black gesso. So I'm going to go over some of the supplies that we're going to need. So first of all, you got to have your box. You're going to need, I'm just going to get out all the stuff. There's a lot of stuff. So I'm using some acrylic gesso. I cannot find it locally in black. I only have white, so I just mix some black acrylic paint with some white gesso. Works fine. Also going to need some sort of a medium. I'm using Mod Podge matte. You could also use like a gel medium or collage medium, whatever you have, and some clear gel glue for gluing on the embellishments. You're going to need several different paint brushes. I like to buy these kind of cheapy brushes for the glue and Mod Podge because I don't always get them real clean, and they're cheap. I could throw them away if I need to. For the design on the top, which I have not done yet, I'm going to do this all on the fly. So this video I'm going to record in several segments, and that's just a miracle of editing. I'm going to do this all in segments and produce one video in a timely fashion, so you're not having to wait for days for me to do things, because this project could take you days. It seriously could take days. So anyways, for the decoration and the image on the top, I'm going to use this pastel mulberry paper. Now this is very similar to Latka paper, which you can purchase on the Bello's Designs website. I just don't happen to have that. What it is a very fine fibrous paper, and it's very, very thin. It takes the Mod Podge or the glue really easily. So I'm going to use that. If you don't have that either, you don't want to purchase another product. If you have tissue paper, which we're going to need, this is just some cheap Christmas tissue paper or gift wrap tissue paper. Nothing special about that, just some tissue paper. You can print your design just on this as well instead of the mulberry paper. This we're going to use for texture. So you'll need some other items for texture. We'll get into that in a second. First thing, get your box. You don't have to sand it, clean it, and give it a good coat of gesso. Black preferably if you have. If not, you can make black. You can also just do white. That's fine too. So first thing we're going to think about is placement of our picture. And the best way to do this is I'm going to kind of just follow this frame right here that was already on the box. And I'm going to just trim it to fit. So we'll need some scissors. And of course, you just measure your box. This one is approximately 7.5 by 6. So right onto our mat. I'm going to come in approximately probably 1/4. So I'm just going to come down to 6.5. And I'll just cut that. Doesn't need to be perfect. And then I'm going to do this by about 5.5. Of course, yeah. I'm just eyeballing it. No big deal. I'll set those off to the side. Okay, so there's that sort of. Okay, and so after you have your piece cut out, you can kind of just set that to the side and decorate that when you want. So now what we're going to do is cover our box with tissue paper. Okay, so take your nice pretty tissue paper and wad it up into a ball. The more crinkly, the better. And what I like to do is do the sides first, and then I'll bring that over the top because I want some on the top, but I don't want to cover where I'm going to put my base. I want that to pretty much stay flat. So you can either rip this up into strips, or you can simply lay your box on it and just kind of go over your line just a little, and need Mod Podge or your medium, whatever you're using. And I just like to put a little down first, so it has a place to stick. Okay, so now I'm going to let that stay there. I'm going to flip this over. And don't worry about going over your opening. We'll cut that with a box knife. And I do the same thing to the front. I'm not going to do my clasp. So I'm going to avoid that. Okay, and so I'm just kind of tearing a hole there for my clasp to be able to close that back down. Okay, so once your tissue paper gets sort of dry, I've kind of already gone ahead and placed where I'm going to put my die cuts for some texture. They're just sitting there, but I just have lots of little random leaf die cuts. This is a Sizzix set, and I just cut multiples out of whatever scraps I had. This one is from like a background die, and I just disassembled it, took it apart, and made a cute little border for the front. So I'm going to do that first, and then I'm just going to do the sides, not the top. So we'll just use our Mod Podge and glue those down. You don't want to use anything too thick and heavy if you need it to bend. Chipboard pieces will work too. They'll just give you more lift. They don't bend very well, so you have to make sure they fit if you use die cuts. And just on like a piece of cardstock, that seems like that works really well for me. This is all just trial and error for me, so I don't really know if there's other things that work better. I'm sure there are. There's things that, you can have all sorts of different things, but I'm just using what I have, so you can do the same. If you don't have die cuts or die cut machine, or you don't care to have a design on the side, you don't have to do that either. You could just leave it. And also, these that are going over where my box opens, I can just cut those later with an X-Acto knife. So just make sure they're stuck down really good and let them dry. And I'm going to move on to this side. I'm just going to add a little bit more glue on the bottom. That's a little easier. Doesn't really matter where. And then I put this sort of frilly one. Now, there. Okay, so the next step after this box is completely dried, and I went ahead and I added a few little flowers, and I've glued all of my die cuts down. So we're going to move on with the design for the top of our box. And I've not done this yet, but I've pulled out, I've got my paper that I've trimmed to kind of fit around my flowers now. Okay, so I've pulled out May, LAV 750. We're going to use the Small Lily Flourish, LAV 755. The new LAV 826 flower pots. I've just pulled out the little flowers, not the pots. And the Vine Set LAV 804, and I'm going to use the leafy one. Going to do some ink blending a little on the background, and I've got Elements Blue Lagoon, Blue Atoll, and Pine. For stamping, I have Nocturne, Shady Lane, Glamorous, and Purple Delight. I pulled out a couple gel pens, and we're going to need some stencil brushes for our ink blending. So I have trimmed my paper down to kind of fit on my box. It'll go under these flowers, and when it all goes down, that'll fit. So trim your paper accordingly, however your shape is, and we're just going to do just a little bit of color blending. Okay, so you can definitely see some color there. And that's all I'm going for. Set those off. I am going to spray this with just a hit of water just to see if that will brighten up just a little bit. Good. Okay. And let that dry. Okay, and now for stamping. We're going to do May right in the middle. And I'm going to stamp her up in Nocturne. Okay, so now we are going to just set our design off to the side, and we're going to cover now the entire box with gesso, and you can use either white or black. I thought at first I wanted to do my box black because of the opal polishes, but I've since changed my mind because we're going to completely spray it with inks anyways. It really isn't going to matter at all. But I think that the white base underneath is going to let the design show through better than the black. So that's what we're going to do. So instead of you watching me do this, I'm going to fast forward this process really fast. But you're just going to completely paint your entire surface with gesso. Okay, so now after our box is covered with gesso and has completely dried again, we are going to now do the fun part. So I do have some rubber gloves on. That's optional. Really, probably shouldn't be optional. It's pretty messy, but normally I don't mind so much. But so I'm going to put my box in a box, flat box, just to contain some of the overspray. Go over the products, the colors that I've pulled out. I'm going to use some polished jade in the dilutions, cracked pistachio in distress oxide spray, milled lavender in distress oxide. Oops. And then some Lavinia acrylic splay in Claret, the Mysticals in green Amble, and in Kingfisher. I'm going to start with the darkest colors and kind of work my way up. I'm wanting to do kind of greens all around the side, and then the top we don't have to really worry about, but I'm going to kind of do the same pattern as our design on the fairies. So I'm going to start on the side. And I'm just going to go all around it, first of all, with the polished jade. Okay, so now we're just going to leave this be and let it completely dry on its own. And when we come back, then we will do some polishes over the top. All right, so now that the spray inks have dried, just want to show you that what it looks like. You can start to see the definition, lots of colors. Hopefully it's not too bright in here. But so now what we're going to do is I've just placed this on. It's not glued down at all. I just, before we go over the polishes, I'm just going to give myself a mark so I'm not putting polish underneath where our art's going to be. So just a few quick little lines just to kind of see. And you probably won't even see this, it's so light, but just to keep myself. Okay, and anyways, so I'm going to hit it with some polishes. I have Green Dragon, Blue Parakeet Opal polish. This one is Green Lemons and Blue Wisteria and Pink Sunset. So same process. I'm going to go light to dark on these as well. Sometimes I don't always like to use the brush that comes in here. I like to use a dauber with a sponge. And you can reuse these just because these get really messy, and this way I don't have to care if I mix my colors. So just open that up, take a little out with a palette knife, and put it on your work surface. You don't need a whole lot. Oops. And quick wipe. Just wipe that off with a towel. And take your sponge, and then you can do this. I like the handle, it's just easier. So first coat, I'm gonna do the sides, and on this coat I want it to be kind of pretty heavy, and then we'll go lighter as we go with the other colors. So this is just skimming the top really, so it's picking up all that texture. And watch, I hope you can see the leaves really pop out. I'll keep loading this up. And sometimes I'm really heavy-handed with the polish, but it just happens sometimes. I love it. It's just so shiny and pretty, and this has a lot of the purple colors in it, so I'm not going to go too strong with the green. And try to let all of my sprays shine through as well. So when you do this, you might want to do one side and let it dry. Because I'm doing this on a video, I'm not being as careful as I should be. On the flowers, if you still have access to your petals, just kind of lift them up, separate them, and get some of that in there. And you can rub this on with your finger too, if you want. I got a lot of the Mica spray in there, and it's real shiny. I don't want to lose that either. It's coming along pretty good. So now we're going to move on to another color, and we're going to go with let's go with the one that looks like, so this is blue parakeet. So this is going to give kind of a blue tone, just this on the, but it's where it's, because it's an opal, where it's darker, it's going to show different than what you see on the lighter color. So we're just going to kind of hit this right over the top. And in fewer places. Right at the ends of the petals. Okay, and now lastly, I'm going to just hit it with a little of the gold treasure. And just the most lightest light bits. And I might just do this kind of more with my finger if it's getting too heavy. And I want to do some gold right in the center of the flower petals. Just right on the tips. And then I'm going to hit all the corners and along the edge and the tops and the bottoms. I'm going to hit all of that with the gold as well. And just lightly brush that on there. So now that that's dry, we can go ahead and put our fairy in place. And I'm going to do that with the Mod Podge and a paintbrush. And I'm going to just simply paint the back of the latke paper, the mulberry paper, with the Mod Podge. Okay, now we'll just let that dry and clean up my brush, and we'll be right back. Okay, so now my box is completely dry. To finish it off, I painted the bottom of it black, and then I set it down. I got fuzzies on it. So anyways, and then I took a razor knife and went around the seam so I can open and close my box. And I think I'm going to make a picture to put in the inside, but that's optional. But I hope you can see all the shine on all the sides. So very fun project. Hope you guys enjoyed that. So thanks.